passion and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Feinbaum Show, Hour 2 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
Amazingly, we've only been here an hour. So much happening right now, and the season's around the corner. Quarterback selections have been made. And how about this one? Faison Brandon, named starter. Not a shock. We talked to Josh Heupel about a month ago, and he indicated this without saying it. Freshman, 6'4", 225, highly regarded. First true freshman to start for Tennessee since Brent Schaefer. That is a long time ago. Adam Sparks joining us. Adam, Schaefer did not end up being a legendary quarterback, but a lot of folks think this time around Brandon might be. Good afternoon, and tell us about the decision.
Yeah, Paul, I remember having a conversation with you during the commercial break at SEC Media Days where we both said it's going to be Faison Brandon. We should have just reported it at the time on air, but we didn't. There's kind of two buckets of Tennessee freshman quarterbacks that have started. This will be the 13th in school history. You've got the top five passers in UT history all started as freshmen: Peyton Manning, Casey Clausen, Eric Ainge, Joshua Dobbs, Tyler Bray. But then you've got other guys who were super talented that didn't pan out. You mentioned one of them there, Brent Schaefer. Harrison Bailey would be another. So the question is, which group is Faison Brandon going to be in? They like what he has from a skill set standpoint. I think a big part of him winning the job was his big play potential. George McIntyre was solid in spring. I say was even better than that in camp. But Faison Brandon, just day after day, you would hear guys talk about him having those wow plays, those five-star plays. He's really good throwing the deep ball, especially in the first scrimmage, a little bit in this last scrimmage too. That's such a big part of their offense. They brought that back into the offense last year with Joey Aguilar, the deep ball, and that's a big reason that they led the SEC in scoring last year. So whoever was going to be the quarterback, he had to be accurate with deep passes, and Faison Brandon did that enough. And then secondly, he had a number of long runs in practice and their scrimmages. Obviously, it's not live contact with quarterbacks, but I asked Josh Heupel about his running ability the other day, and you could see the body language that Josh Heupel, which he usually doesn't show, sort of indicating his excitement in that. And that's another part of their offense that they need. You think back to the Hendon Hooker days when you had quarterback runs, you had a guy that could extend plays. They feel like Faison Brandon has that. And so the combination of the two, the fact that he, I would say, caught up with George McIntyre in understanding the offense, they think he's their best chance of winning big SEC games this season.
And obviously that's what it's about. And I know that this was expected, just like at Alabama, but I've noticed hearing from Alabama fans already, they are through the roof, excited. I'm assuming, even though Tennessee fans were told by you and others this was going to happen, has the level of excitement for the season increased?
Yeah, I mean, I would say almost every Tennessee fan is excited about this because he is a five-star player. There's a little bit of extra wrinkle here because George McIntyre is an in-state guy, played at Brentwood Academy outside Nashville, and so there's a segment of the fan base that was also wanted to see the in-state kid get a chance. Maybe the competition could extend into the season. It is interesting today that Josh Heupel said Faison Brandon has earned the starting job for week one. Now, I think that's something he kind of has to say because I think it is going to be Faison Brandon's job all the way through. But most Tennessee fans, I think, wanted it to go this way. He's a five-star. There's a little difference between a high four-star and a five-star. There's the feeling that, at least within the fan base, there's more money invested into him. He has the higher ceiling. Now, I will say this. The coaching staff did not pick Faison Brandon because he's the bigger investment, because he's the higher paid guy in NIL money. It's yes, he has a high NIL value, but so does George McIntyre. It's not like he's a bum off the street. Faison Brandon, regardless of his price tag, was the better quarterback in the offseason, certainly in camp. If you reverse the two and Faison Brandon was the second-year player and Faison Brandon was slightly lower in the recruit rating than George McIntyre, if you flip the two like that, Faison Brandon would have still won the job. He was simply better.
And Adam, as we continue, none of us know, but that's what we do this for. We have fun with it. As far as expectations, is it still the same in your mind as it was before this announcement today?
Well, yeah. I mean, I still think Tennessee feels like maybe like an 8-win team. The hard thing is you look at the schedule and we can kind of say that, well, Texas is going to be really good and Alabama will be good and LSU will be good, but Texas A&M will be good. They're all on the schedule. But you kind of don't know. You don't know what by November is going to happen with, is it going to be chaotic in LSU? Is A&M going to be as good as they were last year? How does Arch Manning start this year? He was great at the end of last season. He didn't start as well. That's Tennessee's SEC opener. But, I mean, I think they feel good about where things are headed offensively with Faison Brandon. Obviously, you've got to understand that he's probably going to get better as the season goes along, but the schedule also is going to get harder. It is manageable early on. You have Furman and you have Kennesaw State where you can put up big numbers, but they need him to be ready to play at a high level by the time you get to that stretch of Texas and Auburn and Alabama and those type of games. I don't think any Tennessee fan expects them to just run the table in those, but to be competitive and to sort of show that things are headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I was right about this. We played a clip of the Heupel press conference, and I was pretty sure that was you asking him about the news of the day in Baton Rouge and how it related to what I think everybody agrees is the NCAA's slipshod ways involving Tennessee. Can you elaborate on that situation in relation to Heupel and what he said?
Yeah, so if you look at the players that are trying to go from the NFL cuts to back to college football, and obviously most of those are Lane Kiffin players, former Lane Kiffin players trying to get back to LSU. If you look at their contracts as undrafted free agents, another tight end got $50,000. There's a couple players in there that got $115,000, $120,000 in their contract. By the court order, they have to pay that back to be able to come back to college. So let's say they do that. Under the court order, they would be immediately eligible. Arion Carter, the all-SEC linebacker from Tennessee, had a $427 flight that was provided for his agent to go to a training facility when he spent the 1 month in the NFL draft pool. He got injured, had to have surgery. He pulled out of the draft pool, repaid the $427, but he was still suspended for 2 games by the NCAA because NCAA had that ability that they could enforce that very outdated rule and suspend a player 2 games for $400 that he repaid. In the instance of these other players, they would be repaying 6 figures, over $100,000, and not face a penalty because the court says the NCAA can't enforce those rules. I think the general feeling is if one of them is allowed to play, then the other one should be allowed to play, and, of course, that would be Arion Carter, especially when we're talking about $100,000 repaid versus $400.
Well, trying to figure out the NCAA and trying to figure out college football right now would be virtually impossible. Adam, many thanks. Great reporting. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you very soon. Adam Sparks from Knoxville on the news from Rocky Top. Quick break. More of your phone calls, more guests when we come back.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Conversation with Bill Bender from last week. Let's get back to the calls here at 855. I feel like I've been on a bender today. Let's check 855-242-7285. And Jonah is up next.
Hey, how's it going, Paul? I'm just calling to ask about your thoughts on Alabama and their quarterback decision with Keelan Russell over Austin Mack. I mean, Keelan Russell, obviously a sophomore coming into the season. I mean, great ball, like placement with his balls. He has great tight spirals. I mean, one of the best I've seen recently. And do you think he's better than Austin Mack and should have gotten the starting job?
I think he's a better choice, and I think sometimes you have to think about the future and not today. I don't think DeBoer would have put him in there if he thought Keelan Russell was going to cost him a game or anything. I think a lot of fans were expecting Austin Mack for a few weeks and then bring in Russell. And I'm really glad that DeBoer went against the norm and did something what I would say outside the box. I mean, everyone knew Keelan Russell would be starting at some point this season, but to get him in there now, to reward him for patience. Now, again, I'm well aware of what Austin Mack has done, but that's not my problem. My job, if I'm the head football coach here, is to ignite this program to a different level, and Keelan Russell is the way to do that.
Yeah, I agree personally. Do you think that I know it's far away, but do you think Keelan Russell could have hopes of probably winning the Heisman, the national championship for Alabama? I feel like this season's either a really high or like a mid. I don't know if it's a really low season, but I think it's either in that high and mid area.
I think there is a path for Alabama this year to get to the playoffs. I do not see them winning the title, but I do think it sets them up, and I think that's really what this move is. Let's get them in there now. We got a serviceable backup as opposed to doing. I mean, conventional wisdom is always go with the older guy, but this is why. Hey, thanks for the call, Jonah. I frankly think I know Kalen DeBoer's done a lot of good things at Alabama. He's beaten Georgia twice. He's had some breakthrough moments, but I think this is one of his best days because he surprised a lot of people who have been doubting him. And he made a move that's maybe a little uncomfortable, but it was the right move. And I really like it. And I haven't liked a lot of Kalen DeBoer's moves this year. Thank you for the call. Really do appreciate it. George is up next in Louisiana. Hello, George.
Hey, Paul. How are you today? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Listen, I just want to ask you a couple of questions real quick. First of all, my Shreveport, Louisiana brother, is there some reason that do you not like LSU anymore, or you just don't like Lane Kiffin?
I don't like a lot of the things that he's done down there. Now, I'm sitting here in a neutral position. I'm fully aware of LSU fans just don't care. They want to win, and just like every other fan base. Listen, we argued with Alabama fans in basketball. It's a different situation, but it's essentially the same concept. So I don't have anything against Lane Kiffin. I don't have anything against the university. I just don't like the air that they're giving off in how they are just simply shattering a lot of what I think are important things in college football. But that's okay. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what I think of anyone, frankly. Lane Kiffin has done his job lately because he's made his program better on the football field. Does he care that somebody on ESPN takes a shot at him? I don't think so. Maybe he did once, but he doesn't anymore.
Well, I appreciate it. Look, I respect you more than anybody that I listen to on the TV as far as football goes. And I said, well, I got to call Paul and just see what have we done down in Baton Rouge that has you down on LSU. And I understand this. I didn't like the Bediaka deal, and I don't know that I like this deal. My worry is that they're going to bring these guys in late to a team that's been working together since January, and all of a sudden, is the depth chart going to change? Are they going to be able to play over somebody that's worked his butt off? So there are a lot of things I don't like about this, but if it's within the rules, if they're not breaking any rules by doing it, then I say go for it. If we got players that will help us win, I'm an LSU fan.
Well, you know what, George? I really have, at this point, I have no earthly idea if they're breaking rules or not. I mean, because it just doesn't seem to matter much to anyone. And I'll say this again, George, until we hear from the commissioner of the SEC, I don't know which way this is going to go. And with every minute that we don't hear from the SEC, it makes this more likely that Lane Kiffin and LSU will get away with it. Thank you very much for the call. Do appreciate it. Why don't we continue with more phone calls? And Tim is in Arkansas. Hey, Tim.
Well, hey, Paul. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
Hey, Woo Pig Suey. You know, even though it may not be good, at least it's football. Hey, I really enjoyed your back to school segments last week. I think all those, you know, all 16 kids, I thought just did great. But, you know, you had some of them that really stood above the rest. And I'm curious, would you like to hear my top
I would love
five?
to, sure.
Okay, Ole Miss at number 5. I've got Russ Edding. Good personality, good sense of humor, but he used too many filler words. Tennessee, Trevor McGee, he knew exactly what he was talking about, presented it well, did well. Brenda from Kentucky, this little girl was just so very pleasant, and she could tell a good, polite lie, and come off that interview thinking, well, good for Kentucky, even though they're going to suck, you know. South Carolina had a guy named John Davis. He looked like he was ready to put on a CBS jacket and tie and go to work. That kid was good. But the best was from Arkansas. You know, and of course, I'll be biased, but I really believe the kid, his name was, I don't want to butcher his name, Frank Fortis. He
You know what? I thought the young man from Arkansas was just so amazing. I joked with him, but if I had a outlet, I would have hired him literally on the spot. He was that good, that refreshing. Thank you, Tim. Great to hear from you. And Troy is up next in Oregon. Hello, Troy.
Hey, Paul. How you doing today?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'm calling about, just a couple of questions. On paper, if you look at the rosters for both Oregon and Ohio State, they're both loaded. I haven't really followed the SEC lately, but I'm curious if there's a roster in the SEC that would compete with those rosters, do you think? And then also, do you believe that the national champion will come out of the Big Ten again this year?
Yeah, Troy, I said this the other day on one of the shows. Oregon is my pick to win it all, and it really has a lot to do with Dante Moore. I just think he's fabulous, and they have a lot of other compliments. Dan Lanning gets criticized for what's happened in January, but I think he's still one of the best coaches out there, and I think his time is coming very soon. As far as the SEC, Texas has the best roster. That doesn't mean they're the best team, but they have a Ohio State, Oregon, like maybe even Notre Dame to a certain degree type of roster. I mean, it's deep, it's on both sides of the ball, and it starts at the QB position and the wide receiver position. So I am still a bit under. I think Texas has a chance to get there, but today I would pick the Big Ten, either Oregon or Ohio State. Indiana, a very distant third to repeat. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it very much. We're coming back with a report on the University of Missouri. They got some news today. We'll get Eli Hoff to explain how it's being interpreted.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
We're back, and this is the headline out of Missouri. Tigers will be without Ahmad Hardy in the season opener. That was not a surprise. We somewhat got that feeling back at Media Day. So the question is, one of the best players in the country is out for how long and what impact, if any, will it have on Missouri, who does play a significant game the second week of the season, a Friday night game at Kansas. They have a little bit of a break before they get to the SEC. So let's try to find out a little bit more about this situation with Eli Hoff, who covers the team, among others, for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Eli, thank you very much. What is the latest on Ahmad Hardy?
Yeah, not the best update as far as Ahmad Hardy goes to come down this weekend. Coach Drink telling us Saturday night that Ahmad will be out for at least the first game of the regular season, that game next Thursday against Arkansas Pine Bluff. He has not practiced at all during fall camp for the Tigers. Of course, he's recovering from the gunshot wound back in May, so a serious injury to his left thigh. He's been rehabbing, been working on his own, as Drink puts it, doing everything he possibly can to get back out there, but has yet to get on the practice field. And Mizzou needs to see 2 weeks of full speed, full contact practices from Ahmad Hardy before they feel comfortable putting him out there in a game setting. Now that Mizzou is less than 2 weeks away from the opener and he hasn't returned to practice, that kind of that sorts out the math right there. So they're hoping to get him back as soon as possible, but it will not be for week one, and that week 2 game against Kansas very much in jeopardy.
Yeah, so I realize it's a bit of a guess trying to get somebody back, and even when they come back, what is their condition. So the third game is Troy, and then it does get more difficult at Mississippi State, and then the SEC teams start to. I mean, Troy is not easy either. They're a very respected football program. So what are you hearing in relation to not so much when he is given a green light to come back to practice, but when do officials expect him to be able to play meaningful downs?
Yeah, I mean, that's the bigger question, right? And also just how close to 100% he can get. I think that Mississippi State game, that stands out in my mind as a little bit of a benchmark because it is the start of SEC play. Hardy's from Mississippi. He's someone who was not recruited by Mississippi State, so I think that matchup is a little more personal for him. Mizzou and Mississippi State fans will remember that's the matchup where Hardy ran for 300 yards in that game last year. So I think he would certainly like to be out there in that game. It's just a matter of whether he can get the practice time before then. Mizzou and Kansas, that's a heck of a rivalry, as everybody knows now. So Mizzou would like to be able to put as many points on the Jayhawks as they possibly can. The 2 week deadline for Hardy to get enough practice time in there would be this Friday. So that would be a pretty quick ramp up. To me, it's a little bit more like the deadline is that start of SEC play in week 4 or that week 5 game against Florida in early October.
Eli, without him, I mean, Kansas is not as good as they were a year ago. Mississippi State is a work in progress. What is happening in that position, and how does it affect the team overall when you lose one of your best players, if not your best player?
Yeah, it certainly takes some of the shine off the offense, right? Mizzou would be a better team with Ahmad Hardy out there. But they do feel pretty confident about the interim solutions for however long the interim period is. Jamal Roberts is the secondary running back. He's a guy who even as Hardy last year was running for 1,600 yards and leading the SEC and setting the Mizzou single-season record, Jamal Roberts still racked up 753 yards and 3 touchdowns. So even when Hardy is healthy, Roberts is going to get touches. There are going to be downs that are set aside for him. There might even be whole series or whole drives that are set aside for him. So he can handle probably as much volume as he needs to with Hardy out. Now, again, Mizzou still wants to be able to have that be an actual tandem and not just Jamal Roberts. But it seems like Roberts will do what he needs to do as long as he needs to do it with Hardy on the shelf.
And Eli, let's talk a little bit about the quarterback situation. Expectations are up, but what is the reality? Explain it.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated because Austin Simmons, there's a lot of potential there. I think folks at Ole Miss and folks now at Missouri have seen that and agree with that. The intangibles are all there. He had a great summer from a leadership standpoint, made sure to bond with the new receivers, made sure to bond with the new linemen. I keep hearing that he was frequently having Mizzou's offensive line over to his house and making sure they were well fed, which that's a good move on many fronts there. It's going to be about the in-game decision-making and how the processing goes. He has the arm. He has the touch. Can he make the reads? Can he get out of pressure situations? the turnovers in the limited action at Ole Miss, the turnovers do stand out. There have been turnovers in fall camp. Not to say a quarterback is going to be perfect and never turn the ball over, never throw a pick, but how much can he minimize those? How can he learn from those mistakes in game? I think that's going to be the challenge with Austin Simmons. The intangibles are there. It's just working through the processing part.
Eli, Missouri, depending on what end of the bar you're on, has a manageable schedule or a ridiculous schedule when you consider that they have the two best teams in the SEC on the schedule and back-to-back. And A&M and Ole Miss, I mean, they pretty much have everyone, I think, but Alabama, who they had last year. When you look at the schedule, I know you're a pretty realistic person. What do you see?
I see that if Mizzou wants to go 8-4 in the regular season like it did last year, it's going to have to beat a preseason top 10 team. Now, we all know that the preseason top 10 is not gospel, and the odds are that at least one, probably even some of those teams will wind up being nowhere near as good as we think they are on paper at this point in the calendar. But that tells you that Mizzou's going to have to win a big game just to even remain at the level it was last year. And we know that's kind of the narrative with Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri at this point, that his team can win the games they should win, but they struggle in those big games against marquee opponents. Well, it's put up or shut up time with some of that at a certain point in this year, where Mizzou's going to have to beat a top 10 team in all likelihood if they want to stay at this same level. So I think there's enough talent to justify Mizzou being in the top 25. There's enough reason to look at the schedule and see games Mizzou can win. But there's going to be real tests that are going to require Mizzou to come up with one of this program's best ever victories under Drink to be able to stay at the same level they've been the last few years.
Great stuff, Eli. Thank you very much for the report. We appreciate it. More on a few other teams. It's been a busy day, to say the least. We'll get to your phone calls right after this.
You're listening to the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast.
Let's look who's here. Two Missouri reporters in a row. John from St. Louis.
Paul, I'm going to not talk about Eli's comments. Eli Hoff, he always, by the way, always does a super job. But I wanted to thank ESPN and SEC Nation for participation from our ambassador, Mr. Chase Daniel, who, about 20 years ago finished fourth in the Heisman. I really do appreciate that, Paul. And I just had I wanted to segue just for a second here. Can I do that?
Yeah. I forgot Chase finished that high in the Heisman. I'm glad you told me that.
Anyway, Paul, the one comment I will make about the situation with Mr. Hardy at Missouri, my sources are telling me a different story, and we're not hearing the whole story about what's going on there. So I think I would appreciate it if you would reach out to Missouri administration. Let's get a straight
John,
John,
explain. What don't we know? What don't we know?
Well, my sources are telling me, Paul, that he's through, and that there is a lot of repercussions going on, a lot of anxiety and heartburn about what's going to happen with the Nile money. So could you guys go down that path? Let's try to get some real stories instead of all this fluff going on.
John, goodbye. John, this is a fluff show. I don't know why you didn't know that. I mean, we only talk fluff here. Everybody is going to go 10-2, including Missouri. I mean, we're here to please. We're not trying to upset anyone like a crotchety old kook from St. Louis. Amy is up next in Alabama.
Well, hello, Paul. I'm so excited I get to talk fluff with you today.
Well, welcome. By the way, Amy, I hope my favorite cookies are sugar cookies on a fall afternoon, and let's talk about the Garden Club and all the things that make people happy.
Let's do it. Actually, I'm here in Mountain Brook, Alabama, and the leaves actually are already falling in my backyard.
Amy, I don't know where you live, but I'm not that far from you. And I looked out this morning very early, and I said, It's November. I mean, the trees are already barren, and the reason for that, by the way, is that it hasn't rained in Alabama in about 3 weeks.
Yes, exactly. But if you just maybe squint your eyes and bake those sugar cookies you just talked about, turn the AC down, we can manifest some fall vibes. But Paul, you're doing such a great job just considering everyone's opinions and thoughts. And while my address is here in Alabama, I'm actually a Baton Rouge girl, an LSU alum, and I just wondered if you had considered any thoughts about Cole Hudson. Do you know Cole Hudson over there at Texas? And he's coming to Texas by way of the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys, where he was in camp with both of those teams and was cut from both of those teams. And a couple of weeks ago, he joined with Texas as back on the offensive line at Texas. Yeah, no, Amy,
he did file a lawsuit, and I am aware of that. But it's no fun going after anybody but Lane Kiffin.
Exactly. I just really had to laugh yesterday at all the outrage, and I'm very active on Twitter. I love Twitter, and it's my real name on Twitter. That's what really I get accused of being a bot on Twitter. But it's so funny because it's my real name and real picture and everything in my profile. And so, but I laughed at it because I thought, well, I think Sark actually did this about 2 weeks ago already. But that Lane Kiffin gets the clicks for sure.
Amy, you have identified it, and I will see you soon, neighbor. Thank you for the call. That's funny. Let's check in with Travis in Alabama. Hey, Travis.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing today?
We are doing great, thank you.
First of all, we shouldn't take John serious as a reporter, should we? He's not like what sources could he have? Now, what do you think about Keelan Russell? I mean, he's finally been named a starter. I heard your comments. Were you serious when you said that he could be the quarterback that leads Alabama to a championship?
Now, Travis, I didn't mean this year, but I think next year he could. Yeah, I think he is that talented. I think he changes the dynamics of this team. I think I felt like Alabama was a borderline CFP team. I may be a little more confident today than I was yesterday. But again, some of this you have to measure as either reaction or overreaction. But
right.
I think it is a very good move for Alabama.
Right, yes. And, as a fan, I wanted Keelan Russell to be the starter. I think all the fans did, or the majority of the fans. But were you surprised that Coach actually pulled the trigger on Russell? I kind of wasn't, because I kind of think he kind of felt pressure because he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be the coach that caused the number 1 overall recruit to go to Texas in the transfer portal, right? So.
I think he had to do it. Listen, nobody's ever doubted Kalen DeBoer's intellect. He can read the tea leaves, and I think he knew that if he made a big deal, and this announcement is a big deal, even though Heupel said, Fawan's starting, Brandon is starting week 1. When you make this start, when you announce your starter, that's a big deal in college football, right. Or you don't do it. And I think what people did not want to see is DeBoer not make an announcement. Everything was pointing toward Russell, so I think I'm really glad, Travis, that he pulled the ripcord.
Yes, and my last thing is, Paul, did you think he was going to start both of the quarterbacks for a couple of weeks, or did you expect him to make a call before the season?
Indications were that he was going to make the call now. That's how it seemed to be set up. And I think had he not done so, he did run a risk. Travis, always great to hear from you. You take care of yourself. Let me check in with Charles next. Hey, Charles, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. Ole Miss Rebels stuck down here in Southwest Georgia between all these Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Georgia people, and even the SSU, so it's pretty tough. Paul, I'm an old sports writer in the SEC, covered all those things. Remember your old boss at the Birmingham Post-Herald and his cohort, whatever. How long has Alf Van Hoos been dead, Paul?
I don't think he's been dead forever. I mean, but I don't. I feels like Alf retired in maybe the 90s. I mean, he was a brilliant, highly regarded sports writer, and someone I had the opportunity to spend. He gave me a ride once from Birmingham to Auburn. And Charles, it was one of the most interesting 2 hours. I mean, he was telling me World War II stories and Bryant story. I mean, I was riveted. I don't think he cared much for me because I was this young, upstart, know-it-all reporter, although I was smart enough to be quiet on the ride. But it was fascinating to get to know him.
Paul, do you remember where he came from, where he was born and raised?
It was some funny sounding like Cleo or some weird sound.
Cuba.
Is that right? Cuba. Okay. Cuba, Alabama.
Right on the Mississippi-Alabama line near Meridian.
Right.
I mean, it was. You talk about a hamlet. When you say Cuba was a hamlet, that's correct. Well, Paul, let me ask you, see if you remember something. You had a great series of those young sports writers last week. And I'll see if you remember this happening. About 3 years ago, you got the girl, young lady at Ole Miss. I, of course, don't remember her name because I'm old, for one thing. And you asked her, as you do most of them, and you said the other day you like to do this. You'd like to know how they wound up where they went to school.
Right.
And this girl at Ole Miss, you said, well, tell us your story. How'd you get to Ole Miss? She said, well, I'm from Florida originally. She said, my entire family, dating back to my grandfathers and great-grandfathers, everybody went to Auburn. And they all expected me to go to Auburn. And what happened, Paul? I made the one big, huge mistake. I visited Ole Miss.
Wow.
And that's exactly what she told you. She said,
exactly right.
Paul, I made a mistake. I visited Ole Miss. And she said, once you do that, it's hard to turn back.
Charles, a pleasure. We're up against the break, but we'll continue this soon. We need to head to the break. We are halfway home Monday afternoon. We will continue this right after a message.
Thank you for listening to the Best of the Paul Feinbaum Show podcast. Watch the Paul Feinbaum Show weekdays from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app.